What's up, YouTube artists and aspiring artists? It's Mike here with Aerosotle Custom Spray Paint Art. We're back at it again today with another spray paint art tutorial. Today's painting is completely in black and white and comes by way of suggestion from AJ Wolf and Riley, two of the viewers on the channel. They were watching the premiere of my last spray paint art tutorial. I reached out for suggestions and they came to the table with a few requirements for today's painting. Number one, it's got to be black and white. Number two, we need 3 moons. 3, we need a waterfall. And 4, we need some kind of galaxy. So that's the goal for today. Quick sneak peek at the end result for today's painting. So stay tuned as we jump in. We're going to do a full in-depth tutorial on how to paint the painting you just saw. So stick around, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's jump into another spray paint art tutorial. Here's the paint I'll be using for today's spray paint art tutorial. We have some Montana Gold White, Black, and Transparent White, Rustoleum Clear Coat, and Rustoleum Quick Color White and Black. Always wear your respirator, and always make sure your tripod is secure. As we jump in here, I'm going to make my little tool to make my waterfalls. I'm just going to be spraying paint on the very tip end of that later on. So I'm going to cut off a couple of little pieces of scrap poster board here. I am going to play around to get the desired width I want for the painting. And we're going to mosey on to the rest of the video. I'm going to add just a couple little notches to make them nice and streaky. And we're going to jump straight away into this. I'm going to do an overlapping planet. So I want a deep planet stencil that could fit another little one underneath. There's a couple other ways to do it, but that's how I'm going to choose to do it for today's painting. From here, we'll map out where we want our planets to go. This is going to be key to know where we put down our paint for our planets without going too much into the background. Again, today we're just using black and white. If you guys are jumping into the channel and you have a future idea for a spray paint art tutorial, head on over to the subreddit Aerosotle and submit your idea for a future spray paint art tutorial. Also, if you've done some exciting work that you'd like to show off, head on over to the channel and share with us, and you will be featured in a future spray paint art video. So I've just gone in with some black, a little bit of white over top, worked in with my plastic bag here to get a nice texture. I'm going to go over this one many times, just get a really nice light look on there. Coming in with some transparent white here. And back in to texturize this just a little bit. In the end of this painting, I do wind up reworking the shading of both this planet and the bigger moon behind it. But this is good kind of starter for what you need to do to get that planet in a planet look. So we've got our planet texture with some shading. We'll pop down our little stencil here, coming in with black over top, just in the space where our bigger moon is going to go. Once again, I'm using I'm using Montana Gold. I've kind of switched my paint, guys. I'm going to do a video comparing Rustoleum with Montana. So I don't have an official recommendation to make yet, but I am using primarily Montana Gold in today's painting and quite a bit of Rustoleum Quick Color for a more transparent effect with both white and black. Now I've got some black base and white over top for my other 2 moons. Coming in, working my way, touching the edges of my smaller planet stencil while holding it down, making sure that texturization is nice and uniform throughout here. There's going to be a few sections of today's painting where you get blocked by my head. This is going to be kind of one of them where you don't see what's going on. So you have to take my word for it and check out the end result. If you ever did want to know what the HD version of the back of my head looks like, well, there you go. Moving on to our 3rd moon here. Did the least with that one out of all of them. Just kind of want a nice bright look for that one. Came in on this one with a little bit more transparent white, just to brighten up that outer edge and give a little bit more of that moon texture look to it. So I've started to take my time with these paintings a little bit. Runtime on the tutorial here is about 22 minutes. Actually, the painting took me closer to 40 or 45 minutes when I cut out all the dead space here. So really taking my time, going for a good result. A little bit more transparent white just on the edge there. Really subtle. I kind of cheat here, I think, because if I look, that is technically gray that I'm using. So I'm a big fat liar, and I apologize profusely to AJ and Riley for my lapse in judgment with cheating and using a bit of gray. That being said, if you don't have gray, black and white, they make gray. So I'm still within the rule book here. Coming in with Rustoleum Quick Color Black. This is that nice transparent paint that kind of comes out in a very easy to control spray. It gives me my nice little shadow effect for this one. We're going to pop in on the other side. The reason I used that gray was to take that fade and make it a little bit more natural instead of going kind of white with a little bit of black mixed in straight to black. We have another layer to that fade. Gonna come in and just shade this last moon here before we move on to our night sky. With the night sky, this is definitely something I would typically, when we're doing a galaxy, I'd use a lot of bright colors. The challenge today was a black and white painting and including a galaxy in that. So you're gonna see me work through, I'm not fully coating the paint. I'm adding in probably to the top about third or top 40% of this painting, some black paint. And I'm just creating and following here my general shape I want my terrain to be. That's what's gonna host our waterfall afterwards. So coming in, not thick coverage, you're actually seeing places in this painting and a lot of light reflection where the paint isn't really heavily on there. We're gonna texturize this once we add some white in. So I'm just taking some of this excess paint off down here, knowing I'm gonna texturize the whole painting as we go along. And we're gonna go in, add some more black, and get our base down here for our night sky. If you guys are watching along and enjoying what you're seeing and hearing so far, toss a like on the video and hit that subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell. That's gonna let you know when the video premieres go live. The suggestion for today's painting came from a video premiere, so you definitely want to tune into those and chat along as we all watch this video for the first time. A little bit of a lighting change here to reduce that reflection, and we're coming in with some Montana Gold White, just misting out a little base here for our background galaxy. Already I like the way that looks. It's popping quite nicely. We're gonna flick on some stars here. If you're watching this and a little lost or I'm going too fast for what we're covering here today, make sure to check out the beginner spray paint art and tutorial series. It's going to have a ton of beginner tips and tricks, a lot of info on where to get started, even some info on how to sell your art if you have hit that level. So tune in and follow along to learn what we're doing in today's painting. I'm coming in here after I've sprayed my white. We're texturizing, pulling some paint off. I'm not adding clear coat because I really just want that random effect. And coming in here with some Rustoleum Quick Color White, that's that transparent white. And we're just gonna work in a more gaseous, spacey effect. I'm liking the look of this already. I think it needs a little bit of black, almost a little bit of shadow to anchor this nighttime sky. So we're gonna go in shortly here and add that in. To do so, we're gonna use our Rustoleum Quick Color Black. Key with this stuff, it's very runny and you hardly need any of it. So play off to the side, get that can control dialed in and start slapping some Rustoleum Quick Color onto your paintings for those detailed misty effects. Back in with the plastic bag, we are going to just gently blend this background in a little bit, making that flow, making it pop and giving it that galaxy look. A little bit of blackout, almost like a vignette on the top edge there. To give that illusion of dark space behind. And we're just gonna go in and work this black. I think this is a really key step to having that not be too in your face with that background galaxy. It is meant to be our background, definitely going for something nice and bright, but we wanna make it a little more subtle and just dull out some of those edges. And now we gotta pop in some stars as well, making sure we bring to life our sky once again. Those stars I did initially in that top corner there, those will add a bit of a detailed layered effect. You're gonna see some stars now showing up as brighter and some having been washed out with that Rustoleum Quick Color Black. Pretty solid here for our night sky. I'm satisfied with that. For this next stage, after I'm done with my stars, I'm gonna be using a really weird stencil. Here it is. It's a little insert for my fireplace. It came with a couple different ones. I really like the shape of these rocks. So I played around to see if I could just lay this down and get that general shape and outline for my texture in this painting. It actually looks super cool if you ask me. It almost looks like it's painted on there. In this case, it is not. It's just an illusion and I'm using it for kind of the outline here of what I'm trying to do. Finished result is not going to have that red look to it. Obviously, we are using black and white only today. So coming in, I'm going to just black out this this terrain area. So I'm using a very, very close and light spray with a very thin tip spray nozzle for these Montana cans here. So it is not going to have any of that black spray up into our sky. It's a very controlled spray. And I'm just coming in here with a very light, even kind of base coat of white, or pardon me, black with some white over top. So we're going to go ahead and add some white, kissing that edge as well, trying not to go too far over into the sky. With this white layer though, we do want a small bit of overlap into our sky. So this is less crucial than having the black not overspray, but you do want a controlled motion. Coming in here with our plastic bag. Again, these are tips and techniques I cover in depth in prior beginner tutorial series. So if you want some in-depth info on how to make some awesome mountains, make sure to check out my mountain tutorial within that playlist. And we tend to throw a lot of mountains and terrain in our paintings on this channel. So you'll see this pop up in a lot of videos. Definitely required learning. Coming in here, make sure you guys are peeling a nice little distinct edge where the white and the black kind of meet. That's one thing I see a lot of people do these mountains, and they don't have a very distinct solid line, and it kind of pulls away from your ability to have that clean, distinct contrast between the night sky. Coming up here in one of the foreground terrain pieces, you're going to see me kind of cut open a plastic bag so you can see exactly what my hand's doing. So stay tuned for the upcoming kind of foreground section of this painting for a little bit more insight to see what I'm doing there. Everything below that seam line doesn't really require too much precision, but that's the one area you want it. Coming in here with some Montana black, we're going to just shade out our terrain. This is going to be key for depth in your planets, key for depth in your terrain, even things like trees. You definitely want to be shading it and always factor in where your light source is kind of coming from. With this, I'm going to come in with a straight edge. We're going to work on a little water line. If we're going to make a waterfall today, it's going to need somewhere to go. So we're going to work on like a little lake or kind of like river for our waterfall to fall into. For that, I'm creating my water line with black, just extending that along my straight edge where I want it to go. I'm going to add in a bit of shading there for the terrain. Back to the same water line, streaking across with white and coming down in a few sections with some white as well. This is going to give the illusion of reflecting the moons. That being said, I'm not positioning these lines exactly where those moons would be. I'm going to really change the way this looks here in a second by streaking my hand across. So get a nice tight little water line, work it in. I'm not going all the way to the edges. I'm just doing that center section. And we're going to streak our hand across here, try to keep it as level as possible. Changing directions only once we're off the paint and kind of going back and forth like this, giving it that cool reflective water look. Tossing in some stars. This will be the last opportunity I have to really touch my night sky here. That little burst of light in the right corner is actually just the light that I have set up for these paintings. For the waterfall here, you're spraying some water or some paint on the end of the piece of poster board we made at the start. You're dabbing it on, letting that paint drop just onto the painting a little bit and streaking over and to the side. I will say this is one section. You want to just do one pass and be done with it if possible. You see me go over this one multiple times and I'm forced to change the way I wanted it to look. That's totally fine. I do like the way this waterfall came out in the end. I just wound up being a bit bigger, a bit more substantial, and a lot less kind of dainty and elegant as the first waterfall I was going for. That being said, I do dive in a little bit further into the exact technique, give you a little bit more insight on how to create a waterfall in a separate tutorial called, I think it's called Spray Paint Art Water Tutorial. So check that one out and see if you can get some more in-depth tips and tricks. From here, we've got the look going. We're going to come in with our straight edge, a little bit of quick color white, and just make a little bit of mist. That water hitting the water line is going to definitely churn up some misty water. So we want to recreate that effect. Coming in from the side, we've sprayed our white paint onto our poster board off to the side. Then we're streaking down and across. This is one where I'm trying to just leave it. So it's a smaller waterfall, a bit of a different angle on this one, giving it some autonomy, a bit of a different look. And we're going to come in here and create that misty effect at the bottom and the top. I'm not a huge fan of the top section, so I'm going to come in. Again, you can't really see what I'm doing, but I'm going to just pull off that paint while it's still wet and redo that section. Spray paint art's pretty easy to alter and change and fix your mistakes, so I'm taking advantage of that here. Then I'm going to come back in with some Rustoleum Quick Color white and just kiss the edge there one more time and almost touch the sky and get a bit more pop on that horizon. So that'll work for me. Step, I don't know, 40? I don't know what step we're on. Nonetheless, we're coming in with our mid-range, kind of mid-foreground terrain here. I'm going to lay down some black, using that skinny tip again to avoid any overspray. Overspray is a big killer, especially if you have a lot of different kind of layers and different things in the background, foreground, etc. As you work through that, guys, it's going to overspray every little layer you do. And the top sections of your painting start to get really muted and almost misty and dusty. So if you know that effect and you want to know how to avoid it, work your way down the page and really avoid any overspray that's going to push things to the top side of the painting here. So I've laid in my black, I've laid in some white, and I'm coming along here. Like I said, I really want the edge of this mountain to be a solid line without too many gaps. So I worked that in and come across here. That little side is looking pretty good, just a couple little touch-ups. And onto the other side here is when I'll open up this bag so you can actually see what my hand is doing here. I'm using basically just my pointer finger to draw in that edge line. Nice soft touch. I'm not trying to get the marks of my nails along the edge. I'm just working that line straight across and then peeling off the paint. So it's a two-handed motion. Hand on the right, if you're right-handed, is going to be guiding everything, and hand on the left is slowly going to be peeling off the bag and making sure it doesn't touch anything it shouldn't. Now we're up for some foreground water. For this, I do a few different layers, trying to get my color combo right, trying to make it really match the other water here. And I am going to opt for one additional kind of layered piece of foreground rocky terrain. So with that little touch up on my top one here, I think that really helped it even out for our water that's incoming. Come back in with some Montana white. Lay it down here and work in one more piece of foreground texture. You'll see that nice kind of smoky white left between the two terrains there, and I think that gives a nice little depth of field look to the painting and helps along, you know, that look of depth and figuring out with where things are in the composition of our painting. Coming in with some black just to account for the shadows that would be present from our terrain here. A little bit of white over top, and I really do work this quite a few times here just to get it right in my mind's eye for how I'm, you know, aiming to make this painting look. As we come up on the tail end of this painting here today, another shout out to AJ and Riley for your suggestion for today's painting. It allowed me to just, you know, shoot for an end goal and not so much do this off the top of my head. I had a lot of fun painting this, and I'm thrilled with the results and really appreciate the feedback you guys give on the tutorials and what you'd like to see in the future. One more plug for the subreddit here. We have a ton of submissions already, relatively speaking, of course. And I'm really excited to make a video where I kind of get to talk about your art and showcase it. If you have something to share, make sure to pop over to our Aerosotle subreddit over on Reddit and submit your work to be featured in a future video. If you have spray paint art tutorial suggestions, that's another great place to have your painting come to life here on the channel. So pop on over to Reddit and check it out. I'm just working this water line here, a little bit more black, a little bit more shadow, and just getting it. Oh man, why? Don't do what I do, guys. Pay attention to what you're doing. Do not put a can of spray paint down on your fresh painting. Don't know what I was thinking when I did that, but that could definitely put the reset button on the entire piece if you're not paying attention. We'll see what happens when we pull that can off and what kind of damage control we need to do. Hey, no oopsie. Well, that's a happy surprise. Again, guys, be careful. Gonna pop into the bottom corner here and sign my painting. To do so, I use a pointy little clay modeling tool. Allows me to etch my name into that black paint and put my mark on my creation. Once again, Make sure to sign this stuff, guys. Maybe one day you'll wake up and it'll be worth a ton of money and you won't even have your name on your painting. So make sure the world knows who created it and get your name on your work. From here, all that's left to really do is go ahead and peel off our tape. Twofold, this tape helps me keep the painting in place during these videos, so I'm not having to adjust my camera angle or my poster board. There's moon number 1. Here's moon number 2. It's all looking pretty good. I'm going to touch the shadowing just a little bit because I know I need a big contrast between the front planet and my rear one. As I pull off this third moon, I'm not 100% satisfied. I probably could have left it, but due to my texturizing, I get kind of a weird line that makes it look misshapen almost. So I decided to come in and hit this whole bit with a little bit more love. So I put a bit more shadow in my smaller moon, and then I work in probably a bit too much shadow for this bigger moon. But again, I'm just trying to get the result I'm looking for. I wasn't quite happy. So I came in to give it another crack. There is an ultra far too close-up look at my painting hoodie. And in with some shading. I take a plastic bag here. I'm going to start to blend that shading just a little bit. I'm thrilled with this painting. The one thing I'd change if I could take it back was what happened with this moon at the very end here. End result, again, is still good. Not to be too picky with the end result, but I would have liked that to look a little bit more natural in the end stages of this. So there's a look. Not too bad. Still pretty awesome. Again, that burst in the top right corner of the page is just from my light, so that is not our light source there. And I think we kind of salvaged a decent look in repairing the contrast of that moon. That's pretty much it here. Nice little burst for good measure. We're going to go ahead and peel this tape off. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure to drop a like, hit that subscribe button, go over and check out that subreddit so I can stop bugging you about it. And we'll see you guys again in a future spray paint art tutorial.